For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It is true. Once again, Jesus is telling a story that warns of the dangers of wealth. This one is about a rich man who has built a life of luxury for himself. He lives in a gated compound, wears decadent, luxurious, costly clothing, and feasts sumptuously at every meal. All the while, a poor man named Lazarus, covered in sores, languishes at the rich man's gate, longing even for a crumb from the rich man's table. The only comfort Lazarus receives is from dogs licking his sores. Every time the rich man goes in and out of his gated home, he passes by Lazarus, ignoring him. The rich man's heart is closed off. His wealth is his security, his pleasure, his stumbling block. A chasm in life is created by his wealth. His life is constructed in a way that shuts out the realities of the world. He's aware of Lazarus, yet he ignores his need. Simple crumbs and a drink of water would be a welcome relief from Lazarus' suffering. The rich man's wealth isolates him and even inhibits his own happiness and wholeness in life. And while Lazarus suffers in life, he is rewarded in death. Sometimes I wonder if perhaps the purpose of Lazarus' life by the rich man's gate was to offer a constant opportunity for the rich man to open his eyes and heart, to share from his riches and offer compassion to one in need. A daily opportunity. We understand that wealth or lack of it creates different challenges. Too much money and it can get in the way. Too little money carries its own burdens and challenges. When both men die, Lazarus is carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom. The rich man is buried and cast into Hades. It is a turn of events as Lazarus, a poor man of faith, is received by Abraham, a rich man of faith. The rich man feasted on earth, but Lazarus now feasts in heaven as his soul finds rest in Abraham's presence. And now, the rich man looks across the chasm of death, and even still he treats Lazarus with contempt. He asked Abraham to send Lazarus with water to cool his thirst, as if Lazarus wasn't even there hearing the conversation, and he was a lackey for him, a servant. In Paul's words to Timothy, perhaps we see a prescription for hope for all who have wealth and comfort in this life. The rich are to do good, to be rich in good works, generous and ready to share, thus storing up for themselves the treasures of a good foundation for the future, so they may take hold of life that really is life. There are two stories from this week which speak to the dilemma of wealth or lack of it, and open hearts and eyes, living life. As we all know, this past Monday, the Queen was buried, and the whole world felt the loss. A woman thrust into power at the age of 25, she declared she would live a life of service to her country. And she did. When she died, she was incredibly wealthy. Yet throughout her life, she showed kindness and had an uncanny ability to set others at ease. Perhaps the most telling was the grief of the staff from her residences as they quietly wept during the burial service at Westminster Abbey. To me, it spoke volumes. Elizabeth was a wife, a mother, a queen, a world leader. She was a woman of faith, power, and privilege, who somehow managed to keep her eyes and heart open to the needs of others. Hers was a generosity of spirit and abiding presence that touched others' lives and lifted them up, brought them comfort. And I hold her life and legacy in juxtaposition to the life of Wade Leathers, a man who lived on the edge of homelessness. His life was filled with struggles, sorrows, and dilemmas. And yet his heart led him to help with our fish ministry, of offering food for others. He offered what he had to help us help others. His presence. And somewhere in between these two human beings, hopefully we find ourselves wrestling with what we have, what we need, what we see, and what we ignore. Our world is filled with many people whose lives reflect the rich man's isolating wealth and callousness. Perhaps the question is, what is our relationship to the wealth in our lives? Does it possess us? Does it create a source of generosity and compassion in life? Or does it create a chasm that cuts us off and isolates us? Do we strive to live a life of generosity and faith with open hearts and eyes, easing the burdens, showing compassion, lifting up others?